welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. Owen back again for another guest episode. Very blessed to be joined by Mr. Jack Bergin in the not quite studio pseudo kitchen of our house. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, dude. It's my pleasure.
We were talking about this before while we were getting some coffees and getting ready that like this is the interview that almost didn't happen. And I think this is perhaps maybe the third or fourth time we've tried to pull this off. So I guess at the very top of the episode, I want to say thank you for coming through and for making sure that it happens, because like you've had a lot of stuff going on, and I wouldn't hold it against you for being like, well, don't have to do that one now, so that's fine. But thank you for coming in.
Thank you, man. There was, I think you're right. I think it was about 3, maybe even 4 or 5.
Yeah. The email that I got from your team to set this up had in brackets like the Hail Mary, as in like this will be the final time.
For sure.
And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go.
That's it. I wanted to make sure that you got what you needed to, because I felt so bad, like I was telling you before. Like I was just needed to make this one happen, and it's a nice,
I appreciate
nice
that.
Symbolic finish, is like finally tying everything together.
Yeah, and I guess like I think most people watching this will know kind of who you are in your history, but for those uneducated watchers and listeners, could you give us a brief introduction about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Jack Bergin. I'm the vocalist of Void of Vision.
Mm-hmm.
We have just pretty much announced our wrap up of that project, which has been going for 12 years now.
Crazy.
We've seen the world, seen ourselves. It's just been a beautiful experience, and it's time to put it to bed. We're about to head out on our last tour literally tomorrow.
Yep.
Very bittersweet feelings, but very exciting nonetheless. And yeah, we're just ready to celebrate it all off. But we're all moving on to new chapters. My new role is at TPD as a heavy music presenter.
Yeah,
and
I'm excited to talk about that.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm lucky that we got this right at the very end, because it was like finally announced, and I was like, cool, I can like chat to him about this like new chapter, the new beginning. So yeah, we'll get into all of that.
Amazing.
I guess I wanted to start off with, I saw an Instagram post that you put up, I think yesterday, or maybe at some point this week, but you were like, I don't want to call this an ending.
Yes.
And you described it as being like bittersweet, surreal, but also part of this journey of self-discovery.
100%,
so I guess talk to me about that. Expand on why is it more than an ending for Void of Vision, and how are you processing this farewell, the long goodbye, the big sleep of the project?
Well, that's the thing. I think the whole purpose of this is to move on to that next chapter and find yourself, honestly, because within Void of Vision, I did feel a bit, I don't know, I felt a bit kind of not necessarily lost there, but I felt like there was a ceiling, and I was kind of just heading to that level and staying there, and I felt a bit complacent at times, and I knew that I needed to step out of that comfort zone in order to make a living for myself and like provide a future. And that's something that I've been struggling with for a long time, like just what does my future hold? And I think
I can relate. Yep.
Absolutely, man. I think we all can in a sense. And after all the health stuff came over, I thought, well, I'm not going to wait anymore. Like, I just don't want to really wait for that kind of thing. I don't want to wait for signs to present themselves.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of shot with it, and it was scary. It was very scary making that decision. But it was just something that I think was needed. And it was crazy how the universe just kind of brings things into your life, and it's there for you on the other side. And I'm so thankful because like I mentioned, like you said in that post, I was thinking like it has all just paved the path for what's next. Like everything that Vov has done has kind of paved that path. And that was what kind of made the decision easy, because I knew that at the time. But I think once you do make a big decision on ending something that large, you do kind of get washed over by just all the what ifs and what could have been.
And it's not just you, right? Like it's the band.
For sure.
That's the label, it's your team. Like there's a whole bunch of people not necessarily dependent on you, but they're involved as well. So like when you pull the pin, like it ripples outwards to a whole bunch of different people.
And that's another big thing too for when we pulled the pin. Like it was at a time where I guess things were suitable for our surrounds to make that decision. So we didn't really have we didn't ever want to really screw anyone over or like make anything difficult to make this process even harder, like pull out of tours, et cetera, et cetera. But we did it very delicately and just kind of made sure that everyone was on the good books at the end of the day, because it's hard in this industry and it moves so quick. So to find that window is very difficult, but unfortunately the window like lay right after that album release. So it was a bit interesting.
It's a bit bittersweet is kind of the right word, because we talked about this with the album release on a previous episode, but like it's easily the best thing the band has ever done. And,
Thank you, man.
And like going out on a high is like, it kind of doesn't even do it justice, I think, because it really exposed people to what your potential was as a band. So there's an alternate timeline where there's like, you know, another decade of Void Division, and what waits for that, we'll never know.
Exactly. And it's kind of cool leaving it on that note, because we have left behind a bit of this question still there, like of what could have been. And that's, I like that. I like the idea in people's heads that they're like, man, I know it's like you don't know what you got till it's gone kind of attitude, but like seeing that potential after the fact is a lot of things that people think of, and
that's kind of that surreal quality that we're talking about, right? Like that's a weird thing to kind of hold in your head and turn it around and see how it looks and how it feels.
For sure, yeah. And like going into this tour and playing all these songs, like it is a crazy feeling, like because like we feel great performing them, and it translates really well. But yeah, I don't know, we're always gonna keep that mystery, and like there's still a few little tricks up our sleeves, just because we'd be doing it an disservice. Sorry if we didn't have that left over for everyone.
I think that's true. I guess I wanted to kind of dig in and interrogate the inflection point, the moment where you were like, we have to stop. We have to like put it to bed. So like take me to that moment.
Yep.
How did you feel in it? And then how do you feel now, however many months down the track?
So it's super weird and like super bomb drop exclusive, I guess.
Let's do it.
When we released the single Blood for Blood, so we went out that morning with just release as it should be, everything. And I can't even remember now, but just a bunch of shit went wrong, and a bunch of shit in just the wrong ways. And it's not like, it wasn't like a triggered decision. This has been something that's obviously been floating on our minds timing wise, but it was at that moment where I was just kind of like, I realized I wasn't fulfilled I wasn't getting the enjoyment and putting out the song in that morning. I was just like, I'm not even excited to release music anymore. It's really bizarre, and nothing can compare to the creation process. Like the aftermath just felt really stale after that. And I was just like, this is a really disappointing feeling, because
I've heard artists describe it as like going from being like the creative, the, I don't know, like the left side of the brain kind of person to being like the salesman.
Yeah.
And being
big
like,
time, dude.
and being like, I fucking hate this part,
dude. And that's the thing. I love both aspects. That's my major problem. But together they were starting to butt heads a lot and not agree with each other. And I think that made me realize, damn, like if I'm ever going to do this, I would want it to be just one or the other. Like I'm just not mixing business with pleasure anymore, because it's just too strange for my brain to comprehend.
Do you think that your kind of personal health and the trials and tribulations that you've gone through with that incredibly difficult journey has kind of put those things into like sharper relief, like giving you an extra perspective of like, all right, well, it's already hard enough for me to just fucking live life and be a human being. If I'm also going to be Jack from Void Division and that doesn't feel good anymore, What the fuck am I doing?
That's the thing, dude. And I found my bullshit meter becoming like increasingly like more sensitive around when I go in for the gamma knife zaps. So like around those times I'll become very like sharpened into that sense of mind. And I'm just like, nah, like I'm not like waiting for anything here. I'm just kind of I'm going with the flow. Like I'm running with my instincts and I'm just moving in because it's just not worth waiting to make a call on these sort of things.
So you get that feeling of like, I think it's time to pull the pin.
Yeah.
What's the conversation like with the guys?
So I pretty much approached them and I was like, guys, my final tour, this February tour that we have planned for the record, that's going to be my last tour with the band. And basically it was just a really candid conversation with everyone one by one and just kind of wanted to gauge. I always said from the beginning, like, if this is something that you don't want to, like, if you want to go ahead with it with someone else, like, please do. Like, I understand how important this is to you as me.
Yeah.
And I think
because it is larger than you. Like
100%.
It's not just the Jack show.
Exactly.
It's Void Division.
It's a big group project, and with everything, there needs to be that opportunity to move forward with it and like keep it growing and stronger. It's obviously just about to jump into like a new era of everything, and the guys were just like, it wouldn't feel right, and they were very supportive, and they kind of resonated with the thoughts as well. Like everyone is moving on to these next chapters, and at our age it is difficult to sustain a living as a musician, and it's becoming increasingly harder. We did numbers with our accountants, and to turn around what would be like a full-time wage or something at least we could like make a living off would be, we'd need to turn over a lot more than what we were turning over in the next financial year. And we were like, damn, that's a depressing number.
You guys have been running it pretty full on for a number of years. So like to contemplate that and be like, oh, we gotta 5x scale up what we're doing,
dude. That's
to break even. Like,
and we were like, that's the thing. We're like, that's a lot to put in, and like it's already becoming exhausting. And like I myself, like I was running pretty skint on like just how to live, and like I was struggling to kind of get it over the line, and I was needing help from family and stuff, and it was getting pretty dark in that sense of financial stuff. And I don't know, it was kind of clamping down, and felt like the walls were definitely closing in towards the end. Like a decision kind of needed to be made. It was getting very hard to breathe in a sense, and it was very comforting to know that the guys did resonate, and I think everyone does resonate in a slightly different way. But I think after the time has passed now, we have all kind of come into its own. We've all let it like kind of marinate and process it, let everything process. And like rehearsal day the other day, it was a very surreal feeling, because there was no like weird talk about like the end or anything. And we were just thinking about like fun stuff to do on tour, and like, let's just like, it's just a regular tour. We're just going to,
it doesn't have to be like,
really enjoy it.
Doesn't have to be the funeral.
No,
it can be the wake. The
that's
fun,
good.
The fun stuff.
That's good. I might steal that.
The Irish wake. The Irish wake. The Irish goodbye.
The Irish goodbye is a good one.
I was listening to What I'll Leave Behind this morning to kind of like get in the zone, familiarize myself with the record again, and forgive me from taking this on like a little bit of a deep kind of tangent, but there's a point on Beautiful Things where you say like, if you're not afraid to die, then what's the point of life?
Yeah.
And at the time, contextualizing the record was very much about your personal journey, your health struggles, this brush with mortality that you went through that runs through the entire record.
For sure.
I wanted to ask, how does it feel that in a way that was kind of prophetic, but not for yourself, but for the band?
Yeah. It's so weird, man. Like I remember,
there's a strange resonance there that's very eerie.
It's very eerie, man. Like I listened to that record like in full the night. I think we got the masters back like way back, the night after my first kind of surgery for gamma knife, and I cried listening to the record, I can imagine. And I listened to it again the night after we broke up, and I cried as well, because I was like, why does this work in both aspects so perfectly? Why does it translate literally perfectly? And it made me think all about the similarities and just the very strange like glass wall between those two moments, and they are so alike. It's just kind of your brain preparing for what's next almost, and it's just hard to kind of say goodbye in that sense and to like part with a memory. And I don't know, it's a bizarre feeling. I'm glad you picked up on that, because that was something that I was quite like, it's very Bowie-esque to
A little bit.
call a record What I'll Leave Behind and associate it with those two moments being so close to one another. And it's just,
So I guess like taking that as like a jumping off point, like you're now in this kind of like post-mortem-esque period with the band. You have the final tour. That's going to be very cathartic for all of you to like play the album songs, but also the band's back catalog for fans. So there's like a performative aspect to that.
For sure.
But just in general, like, how do you feel about where the band stands in terms of like a legacy with your audience? Like, literally, what will you leave behind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you go right back to the start, like the very humble beginnings, starting this band, we just wanted to play, like this is back when the all ages scene was pumping and alive. All we wanted to do was play to like a crowd of 300 in the local community hall. Like we just wanted to pack that out and have a crazy show. And we were like, I don't know, a couple of years in, we were like, damn, like it kind of like ramped up much quicker than we thought it would.
Yeah.
And it just kept going and snowballing. And now we've left this thing behind. Like all the, like you could think of it at a multitude of like different scales and lengths, but how I've seen it is like we're just this band from the eastern suburbs of Melbourne who just like have just solidified our stance on the music scene down there. And I don't know what that means for the future or the past, but that's literally all I see it as. And that's like a lovely little attachment to it for me. Like, I remember that was all I did in the day was go to shows around where I lived down in like Ringwood, Croydon, like Murrelbach and all that little local area, and seeing that scene alive and full was just, that made my heart full. And that was that was a moment I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And
sick.
I feel like I really did that a service, and to be in the position that I am now where I'm kind of in a position to kind of help at some degree build up that again, or like help inspire that again for kids. Like it's a really sweet feeling to, I don't know, still be able to do what I was doing with Void of Vision in a different kind of aspect. And,
and we'll touch on that in a little bit where we talk about core.
Yeah.
But I do think you're in a unique position to run a show like that and to be a spokesperson for Australian heavy music, having lived it yourself from a young kid to, you know, bubbling kind of like musician to then like, you know, world international touring musician. You know what I mean? Like you've been through that whole journey. You understand kind of what it's like to idolize a band on stage and then to be idolized on stage.
100%. And that helps a lot too. Like it's kind of, once again, translated to the whole radio thing too. Like I grew up listening to like Short, Fast, Loud with Stu Harvey and plugging my headphones in, going to bed every night and just listening to all these new bands and discovering new music. That was kind of how I discovered music on a larger scale. And then I'd go to my local shows on the weekend and catch all my friends' bands and all these like smaller bands that I hadn't heard of either. And just music discovery was just so integral, and I loved it. I've just ended up there again. It's kind of like a full circle moment as I've reached this stage of my life. I feel like as much as one chapter closes, another has opened in the terms of I'm just learning to love music again. And I think a lot of that was tied into like wrapping up Void of Vision too. I needed to understand how to love and appreciate music once again, because I was just so surrounded and just in the wrong mind frame with it. And now everything is opening up again and I'm finding myself just like bewildered by it. It's really awesome. And I'm glad that I could get back there, because that's a beautiful feeling. That's kind of like almost a reborn feeling in a sense.
Kind of go back to this idea of like a post-mortem reflection on the band. I was not only listening to the last record, but listening to songs from other records.
Mhm.
And it's such an interesting trajectory sonically
It
that
is.
you've gone through. And, like cards on the table here, like I wasn't immediately won over by the band in the beginning.
I don't think anyone was, dude.
I saw you guys support Body Count,
Yeah.
which I think was around Children of Chrome, like
Mhm.
2016. And like you put on a sick show, but it just wasn't really for me.
I feel
And
you.
I was like reviewing the show at the time. And,
Oh, crazy.
and I like read the review and there's like snarky bullshit in there. And I was like, fuck you, Owen. Fuck you, past Owen, for being such a prick. And then, but I was thinking about it and I was like, I wasn't like a hater. It was just like it wasn't for me. Like I was listening to other shit at the time. But I will say that like I've followed your career closely. I've listened to every record, seen you a bunch of times, and like the sound has like deepened and gotten richer. The band has gotten weirder in a complimentary sense.
Thank
like
you. Non-derogatory.
you've got the freak flag flying. You're kind of just like doing whatever you want to do. And I think like as I get older, that really resonated with me. And I was like, oh yeah, they're fucking going for it. Like they're still heavy, but they're doing weird shit. They're into the rave stuff. They're into the EDM.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's got fucking spikes on his face. Like, let's go. This looks sick. So like for me, I was thinking about that question and I was like, I'm sad because seeing that journey, that evolution, like that potential, I think is like such a sad thing to see like what could come next, because I truly do love the last record. I think it's brilliant. Some of your best ever songs.
Yeah.
Just listening to it today, I was like, oh man, what a fucking banger. Like, damn. So kind of talk me through that. Like if you reflect on where the band started, like you said, in the eastern suburbs, you're young kids, you're kind of just like writing beat down music and doing breakdowns and doing heavy shit. So like, how do you feel about where you've ended up doing something as expansive as the last record?
For sure. Like we started at Roots just as a kind of, I don't know, it's when Gent was popping off and all that kind of stuff was kind of coming in. We just wanted to make kind of like a mosh kind of mosh band. And there was just kind of mosh with some tech parts in it and had a very unique kind of volumes, like early volumes-esque sounds, like very early days. And then...
Did you ever tour with Volumes?
We didn't tour with them. We played with them. We were like the local support for... I can't remember which tour it was. It was like Volumes, Prepare Like a Bride, Stories. It was a great lineup.
Wow.
And
what a 2017 lineup throwback.
Yeah, shit. That's a big throwback. It was good. And yeah, I don't think we ever toured with them. There was definitely like talks along the way. I'm trying to think if they actually were fulfilled, but no, it was just all like potential lineups that never came to be. But then we kind of we ran with that, and then the whole Sworn In Death card, like things got heavier again, and then we delved into a little bit of a darker, and that was when we started experimenting with identity and started playing around with like the matching like shirts and like then it evolved into the jerseys, and then we kind of
I always appreciated that because I'm a big Warriors fan. So like the baseball jerseys and all that sort of stuff, like aesthetically, I was like, yeah, I fuck with that. That's cool.
And that's where it led next, because obviously the Warriors influence, it's very like a bit more, it's not as dark as like one would think. And then we were like, okay, this is kind of cool. We love this kind of like culture pop. And then it moved into the Children of Chrome era, and I think we adjusted the sound with that. But we went into that record, like that was our first record. We just signed the record deal.
Yeah.
And we went in so unprepared, just as people like who don't know how to write an album, don't know what to do with an album. We weren't ready for it, but we were like, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was just shambolic. Like we did it with our mate Sam at the time, who was producing like great records, but the great records that he was involved with, he was a lot closer to, like Ocean Grove. He was in the band, and that record sounds fantastic because, well, he wrote it. So, and he didn't really write the Bob record. I wish he did.
Shout out to Sam.
Shout out Sammy
Friend of the show.
Oh, absolutely, my man, Wagwan. He basically, we were just a bunch of kids just messing around, and we put out that, and we shouldn't have been doing the things that we did. Oh, not shouldn't. Like, I guess we weren't ready for what we were doing with that record. Like you said, the body count, and we were doing like massive venues with that. We went overseas for the first time with it, and we were showcasing that to the world. And it was like a product that, I don't know, we weren't confident in, and we were taking a real big gamble with the imagery. And I don't know, from that moment, we decided, all right, let's be sensible and tone it down. And then Disturbia came after that, Return to Roots, and we just did what we felt natural, and that worked.
Yeah.
It really worked. And then we just kept evolving from that, and then went to the hyper days, COVID hit, clean slate, and then we just blew up with the Chronicles worlds, and that was where we were the most proud of everything. And
I was listening to another interview doing prep for our chat, and there was a really illuminating thing that you said in there, because like we've been doing this podcast now for like a couple of years, and almost every chat that I have with an artist, there's some kind of reference to the pandemic, because it was this huge thing that affected everyone, and especially musicians with releases and stuff. Like they were either working on something or not working on something, or took a break, or like whatever. So like it always comes up in conversation, but yours is the first time that I've heard someone say like, yeah, it was sick. It was great for us. And like my ear pricked up and I was like, what?
Dude, like, yeah, it was very interesting just having that time. So at the time I lived really, really close to James, like just a walk down the road. I could walk to his, and I think we didn't have any of those restrictions or what have you. So
he's in your bubble.
Yeah, he was in my, that's the word. He was in the bubble. And I just walk over to his with a bottle of wine every like weekend.
Beautiful.
And we would just sit down and write, and we just kept going away, hacking away at that. We started that process with like hyper days, and we'd book in like weekends, and we'd just kind of go until we're ready, and then we're like, all right, we've got an album of stuff to go.
Yeah.
And we'd go and record that. But this time we just ramped it up, and we wrote so much fucking music, and we were just like, this is really hard to put into an album. It all sounds so different. And the 3 EP idea came about, and we were like, we can make this massive. We can do all the trimmings we've ever wanted to do. We can like make it look insane. We can just like evolve in every aspect. And we took that time off and brainstormed, wrote, and then we were ready with everything when the world was ready for us.
Yeah.
So we just kind of waited for everything to kind of
like
come back to normality.
A creative reset kind of thing.
Dude, that's exactly what it was. And selfishly, like I would, not with a pandemic on the side, but creative resets, I'm all for. Like that was awesome. And thinking about how bands in the past have done, you look at the band like Basement, like they've taken several like hiatuses, but they've come back each time like better and better and better. And I've got a feeling this next record's going to be yet again like the best they've ever done. And I think it's a healthy way to operate. And I think there's kind of a dirty word around like these breaks and sort of having time off. Of course, there was a dirty word around COVID because it was a dirty old thing. But it's just, I don't know. It really benefited ourselves. I know a few friends, like the Thornhill guys did the same thing over COVID. They just did a lot of work on themselves and their craft.
New record that they're doing?
It's nuts, man.
It sounds fucking stupid.
It's so fucked. Like... Yeah, the world's not ready for that. That's
another band that like I was never really sold on in the beginning.
Gotcha.
And then each release I've just kind of been like, okay, all right, I get it. So like sometimes, you know, the stuff that doesn't click the first time, you kind of have to persevere with it.
Dude, 100%.
And I'm glad I did, because like the shit they're doing now is insane.
100%. I think how you felt with like this last Vov record, like this is Thornhill's version of that. Like they are fully realized. They've mastered their craft. It's just the world is theirs now. Like they can just move forward, because this record's, I've never heard anything like it before in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I guess that's kind of where we ended up. We ended up in this very comfortable slate where we've just kind of finally found our perfect Void of Vision, and it just felt really healthy wrapping it up with that. Like I don't have any regrets on what we didn't write or create, because that album is just our baby. Like we're so proud of it. Why is this so easy for me to walk comprehend? It's the beginning of the end. I won't believe what happens next. So tell me, how will it feel the day I won't forget? Since that's been in my head, this sound is deafening.
It truly is going out on a high, because it is like the most fully realized version of what you guys are doing. Like it's still heavy, still aggressive, but so rich and textured and nuanced and like deeply personal.
Yes.
So like, it ticks all of my boxes. I guess I want to get real for a second.
Let's
so
go.
like, we were talking before about this kind of bittersweet idea of like putting the band to an end.
Yeah.
Do you feel any just straight bitterness or anger at the fact that like life hasn't exactly dealt you the best card to kind of get to this point? Like you've gone through like some pretty rough stuff personally with your health and your own kind of journey that like, you know, in an ideal world, if you didn't have any of that, maybe you'd be going full steam ahead with Void of Vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you feel any anger, any resentment at just life in general, at being like, fuck, this sucks. This is unfair?
Not at all, because weirdly
very stoic
enough,
of you, Jack.
Weirdly enough, I don't think any of this would have happened if I didn't get sick. Like if I just stayed in the exact same frame, it probably would have gone the wrong way. Like I would have just been complacent. I would have been uninspired. I would have been, I don't need to do this now. I don't need to move right away, et cetera, et cetera. And that stunts growth. And I really, really wanted to avoid that. As soon as like life was served to me with like a potential timer on it, I was like, I'd never thought about that for the first time. Like mortality and everything is a very confronting thing to think about. And when
things into perspective real fucking quick.
100%. And when you're being served with like these stats of like, okay, like by the time you're 40 to 50 years old, like things are going to get really hard. It's like, well, fuck, like what am I waiting for? Like I'm seeing like all these opportunities in front of me and I just want to take them because there's no point in waiting. There's no point in regretting not taking them. I can always just fuck something up and go into the next thing like I did. Like Vov's taught me everything. Children of Chrome, we fucked up, came back and just tried it again. Like you can just keep going and it doesn't matter. No one actually cares. Like no one gives more of a fuck about your band or your life than you do.
Absolutely.
And that's a wise man once told me that, Adam from Hand of Mercy, like very first tour, like way back thing.
What a throwback. Holy shit.
And it has stuck with me ever since. Just like nobody gives more of a fuck about your band than you do. And it's kind of how I've lived life from that point on. And in terms of like how you just operate as a human as well. And it's that's kind of how I just went into it. And it's frustrating for people around me. I can see it like sometimes, but I think they deep down know and understand like the reason behind it. It's a very weird feeling to be, I don't know, just surrounded with all this information and just like scarcity and like just fear almost sometimes.
Yeah,
but
I bet.
I think I just don't have time to really like pay it attention. I just kind of want to keep moving forward on my own terms.
I'm very kind of in awe of that, to be perfectly honest. I think that's a very like mature and centered way to kind of process all of it. I read about this in our newsletter when we were talking about the album when it dropped. But so my dad has had a very shitty kind of health journey in his adult life. He's had 3 brain tumors. He's survived all of them and still kicking. Shout out to Dad. He was actually one of the first in Australia to get the gamma knife procedure. I think before it was called that, but like the stereotactic radiation, like he was like one of the trial cases for it because he had a mass in like the center of his brain that they couldn't operate on.
Can't access it because
so I remember asking him because like he's in his mid 60s now. Looks like he's in his like 70s or 80s because it's taken this toll on him physically. And like he's a farmer, you know, he used to work like 16-hour days
in the sun all day,
and like that's been robbed from him. Like that was the one thing he loved to do, was to go outside and just be a farmer. So like he's not able to do that anymore, and thankfully he's retired and he's doing okay. But like I can remember asking him one time, just being like, are you mad that like that life was taken away from you? Like he had his first tumor when he was 17. Had another one in his early 30s when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And then another one when I was a teenager. And, you know, that's like 20 years later now. So like he's been dealing with it for decades. And I was like, are you just mad? And he was like, no. He's like, what point is there in getting mad about it? It doesn't change anything. And like my dad is a very like calm, well-mannered person,
Mm.
doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't swear, like a bit of a nerd. And like, so like it wasn't entirely out of character for him to just be like, what would it matter?
Yeah.
Getting mad and shouting about it,
Mm.
cursing at God or whatever, like
Doesn't
change anything.
Changes nothing. Yeah.
So I guess I divulge all of that personal stuff, but to like turn that into a question, like dealing with mortality and dealing with the stuff that you dealt with, did you reevaluate life, spirituality?
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you were like, I don't know, asking for help or like fairness from divine whatever? Like,
100%.
are you a spiritual person?
Not really, but there over the past year, like a lot of weird things have been happening where it begs the question if there is what this higher power is, because something is out
weird,
there.
like what? Let's go.
Well, dude, like just considering the law of attraction and just all that side of things, I really do believe that there is a greater power out there that is kind of bringing all of this to me. And I'm very appreciative of whatever it is, but I truly believe that the universe is just ready for you. You just need to ask for what you need. And if you are ready, it will be presented to you. And I don't know what that necessarily is, but it's been just a wonderful thing. And I've just kind of been, I don't know, not necessarily searching for anything in the process of this. I've been very comfortable kind of processing everything myself and amongst my closest. And it's just been a very, very like refreshing experience to open up as this more honest and vulnerable individual to them that they haven't seen before. I think everyone was kind of shocked, like how I came out of it the first procedure I came from, and they were just like, oh wow. And I've met like new people that have come into my life that are just like changed it completely. Like I wouldn't be who I am without like these new connections that I've made since, and I'm so thankful for that. And I've just kind of built this life that feels like refreshing, and it feels like a new chapter in general. And I guess I am throwing that word around like a broken record, but that's really what it is.
No, but that's the point that you're at, right? Like really bringing, Vov to an end is opening the door for everything that comes after it.
100%.
So like that feels completely natural. And I guess like let's talk about Core and TPJ, because that's the new thing that you're doing. So at what point did you get offered that, and where was your head at when you were like, oh shit, like I've got something?
So it was earlier this year, like very, very, very soon. Like whatever I'm trying to say is it was like early January, probably like very close to the launch date.
Wow.
And I just got the phone call. Like I had my application in, sent through my demo, submitted that, and that was around like New Year's Eve. And I was just kind of just sitting tight with it for a little minute, and they were obviously out of office on holidays, and then pretty much got the call as soon as they started back in office, and they're like, when can you start? Like, and I pretty much jumped in like and went to air pretty much a week or two later. Like it was pretty crazy. Like it was very in the deep
into
end.
the fire. Let's go.
Into the trial by fire indeed. But it's been, I don't know, I've loved it, dude. And it's because I've been so involved with everything's been absorbing really quickly. But it's just, it's a wild, wild way to end up like on this other side. Like I never would have thought about this being a future for me, but when the opportunity to apply for the job and put everything into it came up, I was just like, this is perfect. Like this is ideal. Like this is exactly what I would love to be doing on the other side of this. And then I was thinking about other work on the side as well, and nothing was really clicking. And I'm like, this still has opportunity for creative output. This still has like the energy and passion I have for the music world around me. The opportunity for me to put more energy into that, or the energy I'd left over from Vov. And it's truly like that. And now it's awesome being on the other side and still talking and communicating with all my friends and all these even idols already that I'm getting to talk to. And it's just, it's a very bizarre world to have landed in, but I'm so happy with it. And even that itself, this job itself, has led into other opportunities outside of it to kind of expand on how I want, because obviously like this isn't a forever thing as well. Like it's a youth broadcast station, so eventually I have an expiry date.
You'll age out of it.
Exactly.
That's fine.
And I understand that. But setting up the other side of that already and thinking about where I want to be there. And obviously it's still within the music industry, and I cannot believe where I've landed with this sustainable future within music. And it's just bizarre. Like, I haven't even thought about creating music in a while, but like that, obviously it's still something I'd love to return to when the time is ready. And
I mean, you can do a studio project.
Exactly, dude.
The one-man black metal project. It's sitting there waiting for you.
Exactly.
Or the one-man SoundCloud rave fucking mixtape, whatever the fuck you want to do. It's there.
The perfect time for that, or perfect storm, will come when it comes, and I'll be open to that. But I just kind of don't need that right now. I'm just so content with like what the future looks like, and it's very, very nice to say that for the first time in a long time.
That if you're not afraid to die, then what's the point of life? Most beautiful things are what I leave behind. When this feeling creeps inside your...
When I saw like the ad for them, you know, when Lachlan was kind of wrapping up with the racket and they were like looking for a new kind of broadcaster, I was like, I wonder who it's going to be. I wonder what the angle's going to be. And they could have gone in a multitude of different ways. But when I saw the announcement that it was you, I was like, oh, that's a natural fit. Like it just makes sense. And like,
thank you, man.
You know, I didn't know you personally at the time, and like we've been hanging out for an hour, so like I feel like I know you to some degree now, but like it just felt like a natural fit. I was like, oh yeah, like he's been doing this for so long, and like he'll have personal contacts and he'll have industry contacts, and he has a deep kind of knowledge of Australia's scene at a local, regional, you know, national level, but then also overseas as well. And I was like, it just makes perfect sense.
100%.
So, yeah, I'm stoked for you. I think it's a really, really good fit, and I'm excited to see what you do. I've been tuning into the show, yeah, it's been awesome.
Thank you, mate. It's been fun. I'm still learning the ropes and getting around everything, but I think this fully realized version that we have in mind with the team is like, it's really awesome, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think the next couple of weeks it'll be a lot more like I don't know, available online, and I think we want to turn it a bit more into a amalgamation of kind of social media and waves. It is quite still like a fairly analog thing to get out there.
I listen online, like,
which is
after
the great thing. Yeah,
like I don't even own a radio, so like apart from my car, I don't know how I would tune into the radio. So like having it online to listen like after the broadcast, perfect.
It's perfect.
I can do that. So
I find that's like a lot of the audience too. They're just tuning in the next day and they're hitting me up the next day being like, "Love the show last night." Da da da.
Yeah,
and it's super cool getting the interviews up after and the uncut versions. Like it's a lot of fun to have, and that's part of the fun. Still having these great chats with people, and just like this, like it's amazing to put that out there. And I know you can understand that as well.
I definitely can. Spend so many hours doing this goddamn thing, but it's still fun. I like doing it. All right, let's kind of wrap up the main show here, and then we'll do some fun Patreon stuff at the end.
Amazing.
But to kind of bring things back to beautiful things, to what's the point of life if you're not afraid to die? What are the things that you're going to look back on fondly about Void of Vision? And then finally, what are you going to miss?
I'm going to look back fondly on the pure scope of it all. Like, it just reached so much more than we ever intended, and we just met and became friends with so many more people than we could have ever hoped to have. And I think part of that is it's just so sweet. Like, we're really all, like I said, also in that, I keep referring back to that post just because it's the most recent thoughts in my head, but we really are that 0.0001% of the population who has shared this realized dream, and we've gotten to this stage, and it's a very, very pure like relationship that we all share. And when you find those people, it's just an instant click, because there's this just weird like symbiotic kind of connection that you have because you've shared just such insane experiences.
It's funny because like you said before, like in a way that is very true, that like no one gives a fuck about your band as much as you do. I think you'll find if I could speculate,
For sure.
that when you get out on these final stages of these final shows and you see the look in everyone's face, you'll realize perhaps that there's a lot of people that also give a fuck about Void Division.
That's it.
And that's a nice thing to have. Like you can look back on that quite fondly and be like, yeah, 100%. I gave a shit, but so did all of these people.
I think it's going to hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Like I really hadn't considered like what it's going to be like until the other night of production day. Damn, like this is going to be a heavy week or two. Like,
don't do any like mascara makeup.
No,
you're just
it's gone. It is gone.
You got to run that shit
Mate,
straight away.
It's out. No, that's the thing, man. It is. It's going to be a wild couple of weeks, but I'm excited. It's going to be nice, and it's a perfect way to send it off. But God, I was just talking about maybe missing that side of things and missing the connection, but I think I weirdly still have it, but in more of a reflective sense.
Yeah.
Like within radio, within still working alongside artists, I'm coming from this other side of the table that you really can't have access to until you have completed or like clocked off on your projects.
Absolutely.
Which is super strange. And I don't know if there's a sense of wisdom at a sense. I mean, it's kind of like clocks off. I've got wisdom up to 2025 at this stage. Yeah. So maybe in a couple of years.
No 5-year plan at this point. Let's just kind of see how things go.
That's it. Maybe people
easy.
won't see me as crazy, like, I don't know, something to look up to in 5 years' time, but so be it. Like, I think it's crazy to have just this kind of timestamp of I have advice for you for what can apply up to now, and I think it's really lovely to being able to pass that on to people and like work with people still in that sense. But turns out that I'm still within like, I don't know, the current like wave of music and how it's operating, so I can
absolutely.
I'm still like taking in everything, and it's
still relevant.
It's still relevant.
He's still here. He's still here.
I'm really like vying to grasp on here. It's like that Simpsons thing with Hans Moleman in Bart's outfit.
Incredible.
Yeah.
No, this has been a really illuminating chat, and I'm stoked that we finally got to do it. So thank you again for coming in to do it. We will wrap up the main show here. If you want to catch the next bit, head on over to the Patreon. I'm going to get you to give us a retrospective playlist of Void separate to the final set list, because I know that's probably under wraps, but I'm gonna do something a little bit different, but we'll do that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show.